This tutorial discusses nation building in the case of Canada. Canada, of course, being particularly interesting when discussing a concept like the nation because of its quite diverse history in terms of nationhood, ethnicity, and so on. So I'm going to start first with a brief overview of history, and then I'll go into the actual complexities of managing nationhood in the case of Canada, including concerns and a question to ponder. So, Canada, of course, founded in mid-1800s, and from this period of time, from the period of time of Confederation, all the way up until just after World War II, really, we can say that there was no real Canadian nationhood. At this time, Canadians were thought of as British subjects, at least by the Canadian state. You would hear Prime Minister MacDonald speak about this, that it was to be built a British nation, really. And there was not even, for a long time, a separate Canadian citizenship. British subjects could enter Canada, and if you were to become a resident here, you actually became a British subject. After World War II, all this changed. So we can speak about an era here, post-war until 1970, which is really an era of nation building. It's the time when Canada starts adopting a series of symbols that is unique to this country. There's a discussion about Canada as being no longer British but multinational, then of course referring to the bi-national build, as it was called in those days, British and French. Also the pan-Canadian, the idea of pan-Canadian universalism, and all sorts of symbols associated to nationhood adopted. Citizenship, the anthem, the flag with a maple leaf. I've even added CBC here. Now, CBC was, of course, predates World War II, but it's important here because it's the state-owned channel of information spreading across the entire geography of Canada, which, of course, is quite an expanse of land. So this is quite important then for creating a sense of community as well, just like hockey. Post-1970, though, we have the introduction of official multiculturalism. Policy framework, of course, is recognizing that Canada is not just binational, it's not just French and English. There are other identities as well, Aboriginal and all sorts of ethnic minority communities that have been in Canada for a quite long time and want some form of recognition for their role in forming Canadian society. So what we can conclude from all this is that Canada has certainly never been a nation state in the sense of the word that one nation should be the natural ground for a state to exist. The Canadian state has always had several different ethnic or national groups to relate to and to reference to in some sense. So managing nationhood in this context also means managing conflicting conceptions of nationhood. Of course, this taps directly into provincial and federal and provincial relationships, where the civic nation concept is what informs the idea of having 10 equal provinces, whereas the idea of ethnic nationhood informs the idea that there is, in fact, the nation of Quebec, the First Nations, that are separate and distinct in some sense from the English-speaking people and the people who in many regards draw their heritage from British ancestry, or people who live in areas where this is the dominant form of ancestry. And then, of course, there's multiculturalism, which I just kind of hinted at, because, of course, even when you are in the nation of Quebec or in the areas where um, English is dominant, there will still be a plurality of ethnicities. In Quebec, there is a strong English-speaking minority. There are other minorities as well, of all sorts of ethnicities, religions, and so on. And anywhere you go in Canada, you will find a great deal of different ethnic communities and groups that coexist in some form. So all these three different ways of thinking about nationhood coexist in Canada and has to be managed and related to by both federal and provincial governments. And there have been two concerns in the scholarship about the trajectory Canada has taken here. One is the fact that Canada has gone from an idea of being a multinational federation, moving from the multinational framing of Canada to a more multicultural framing, so goes the argument, has led to a lack of capacity to recognize differences. And the second concern is if Canadian ethnicity, if this is identified with English, with the English Protestant segment of the population, that would actually that could actually lead to suppressing ethnic differences in public space, which could be highly problematic because they are there. So a question then is really, is Canada the last political community that tries to constitute itself as an ethnic nation state, given the discussions about Canadian ethnicity and how that could be identified with the English ethnic group within Canada? Or is Canada actually the first postmodern state, the first state that has moved beyond the nation as the foundational idea for commonality, the first country that has this capacity because of its diverse history, this capacity to manage differences, ethnic and national differences, in a way that few other states have? The answer to this is really depends greatly on your perspectives on how to treat nation, how to treat ethnicity, and how to treat the role of the state. And that's a short tutorial on nation building in the case of Canada.